Good evening and welcome to your Tuesday edition of the This Is Ibrox podcast, a few days after a Rangers win, which I have not said on any of my previous Tuesday podcasts, which is pretty damning. I'm joined by Tommy. Tommy, just going to jump straight into this because it's always a short pod on a Tuesday, but obviously 40 hours on from that win, a good win in the end. Obviously not a perfect performance, but a good win. What's your feelings and thoughts about things as we sit here a couple of days after that?
Not even going to ask me how I'm Iain.
I don't care, to be honest. I'll do the niceties. How are you? But I want to know what you think of Rangers.
I'm happy actually. Position that we're in league-wise, obviously winning the last 3 games has put us in a kind of good position. We were talking when we were on the Sunday pod after the semi-final, talking about the next 5 games and obviously kind of looking and hoping for 15 points. So it's the first step towards that. It's 1 win out of the 5 there. A lot of people were kind of in the comments saying, you know, we can barely win a game, never mind looking ahead at 5 and thinking we can get 15. But I think with the run of fixtures, that's what we've got to look at. And to be fair, with the way that we've been going in the league under Danny Rohl, I'm kind of getting a bit more confident that we are going to achieve it, you know?
Yeah, it's a strange one for me because even the game at the weekend there wasn't perfect, far from it, but it felt quite routine, like a kind of routine away win, I want to say. Like you say, we've not done it a lot this season, so it's a bit arrogant maybe to be looking at it that way, but 2 early goals makes things a lot easier. I don't know if it was just that feeling of Dundee aren't a bad team at home. Saw them beat Celtic this season, got a couple other decent results. We are a notoriously poor team this season, has to be said. So it's strange that Danny Rohl's been able to come in, and that's, if you take away Europe and the league final, it's been almost perfect. League-wise, 3 wins out of 3. And like you say, if we want to have any kind of title chance, you've got to keep winning. Just a quick look back at the game here. Again, it was covered in good detail on Sunday night by the lads, so go through that if you need to for that sort of play-by-play stuff. But a couple of standout players in terms of Mikey Moore and Raskin. I've noted those 2 down, and some people might raise an eyebrow at Raskin being included in that because, again, he wasn't perfect, and he's had quite a poor start this season. But there was a post that Rangers put on just today, I think, and it showed that he was either top or joint top for chances created, touches in the box, total touches, pass completion, tackles and interceptions, counter pressures, all these kind of weird stats that you only see when you're trying to build a narrative, clearly. But a couple of good performances, and it's a couple of guys who Danny Rohl's getting a tune out of that a previous manager certainly couldn't. So it's, again, another positive for Rohl. He's starting to quietly impress, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And just on the back, obviously, kind of the Dundee game, what you were mentioning there, and something that I've touched on the podcast and I've touched on for many years with yourself and our group chats as well, is the importance of just going up early and then just seeing out the rest of the game. It doesn't, if you go 2-0 up after 15, 20 minutes, the rest of the game doesn't have to be spectacular. You just have to see it out, and the opposite of that the whole season has been trying to claw a game back and get back into the game. If we can put ourselves in a position more where we're 2-0 up after 10, 15, even 1-0 up, by half time, the whole game just flows a lot easier. You might come under a little bit of pressure, but let's say you're 2 goals up and then you can just kind of cruise from there. You can get players on that probably won't be getting the minutes that they would before. There's less pressure on these players coming on as well because we're already in a lead. So to be in that position, I want to see us in that position a lot more. And it's what I've touched on. It's a position that we were in a lot under Gerrard, especially the year that we won the league. We were in that position so many times where games were just dead by half time. Can save your energy in the second half and, let's say, use subs a bit better as well. So definitely impressed by Danny Rohl so far.
There's a couple of comments that I did want to touch on, and I know the guys touched on this on Sunday night, but neither of us 2 were there, so we can have our say. Ronald's come in here, and we side note, by all means, keep the comments coming, please. First half was good, second half was poor, even to watch was hard, and again, Big Phil with a theme I was going to come with here that I don't think the half-time subs were wise. At half-time, we saw Majowski, Danilo and Diomande come off, and I remember saying at the time that Majowski understood. He wasn't doing very much on the ball anyway. But Danilo and Diomande, I thought, were having all right games. And that saw Barron, Asgard, and the infamous Shermity coming on. A couple of guys there who haven't quite hit the heights I think it's fair to say so far since they came in. Asgard in particular, I thought was going to be massive for us. That goal scoring midfielder, that creative force. Trimity, I don't think any of us thought would be anything different to what he has been, but at least, like you said, we were in a luxury position that even a couple of goals up, and I don't know if this is Danny Rohl looking at it from a fitness perspective, maybe try to use the squad like you touched on there, or if it was those three guys not doing what they were told to be doing, and a bit of a ruthless side shown by Danny Rohl. But again, the only thing I want to touch on as well from Danny Rohl is the celebrations at the end. I'm not sure if you saw them, because obviously it kind of was after full time, but the cheering to the crowd, I saw Chris Boyd's comments about that, which I understand it. I cringed a little bit when I seen him sort of Danny Rohl going for it, I must say, but he's clearly just trying to build that relationship with fans, which Sheffield Wednesday, how big that was, how key that was. Do you think that's something that we'll see a bit more of? Like any win gets this cheering with the fans, that interaction just builds and builds.
Yeah, obviously, first of all, in the subs as well, like Danilo came off at half-time every game he started under Rohl.
Oh, I think he played an hour in one of the games, but he was off at half-time against Celtic, obviously. So
Hibs, he came off
two
at
or three.
half-time at Hibs.
That one I think was fitness though, but
Yeah.
the point stands. Yep.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, is that a fitness thing with Danilo, or do you know what I mean? I don't know. Like, he seems to be a fan of subs at halftime. Clement was like that as well, wasn't he? And I think, like, I've read a lot of stuff about Danny Rohl kind of changing in game, like tactically and stuff like that as well. But like I say, the comment about the second half being kind of hard to watch, that's fine. 2-0 up, you know what I mean? I don't mind it.
Yes.
I absolutely don't mind it. On the celebrations after it, also, I don't see anything wrong with it. I know you're saying cringing and stuff like that. I would rather we had a manager right now that had some sort of relationship with the fans, showed a little bit of passion, shows that he actually wants it. You got none of that from Russell Martin. There was no kind of bond with the fans whatsoever. It was quite the opposite, and he never really made an effort to do that with the fans. Whereas Danny Rohl is making the effort. He's actually engaging with fans. He's actively engaging with fans, which is impressive to me. Showing that, it just shows that he wants it. He wants to win. You know what I mean? He wants to do well. That's what it seems like to me. You know, that he's passionate about it. You know.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that I've seen a few people saying that's just for the cameras and just trying to act up because it's on telly kind of thing. But I really don't think that's it. And a few things I've noticed from like being in the gantry in particular, when you're just above the managers, you're kind of looking down on them, everything they do. Very much before games, he's in amongst the fans, shaking hands. We saw the clip of him helping the Union Bears with their tifo on Thursday night. Just these different things that he doesn't need to do that. Like Russell Martin would never have done that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that makes a successful manager, but it just helps build that connection because we know how toxic things can be at Rangers just now. We saw it again at Ibrox against Roma in terms of the banners and the just kind of constant issues with board members and directors of football and stuff like that. So we know that is there, but it does feel very unanimous that the fans are with Danny Rohl. Like you saw it, like from the chants all game was that same song over and over, which is nice to see. At least he knows he's not part of the problem. We're giving him that fair crack of the whip. And as Chris's comment says here, maybe too soon for this. I don't know if I'm just really scared, but nice to have a bit of hope. We do have slight hope, I guess, now, Tommy. Obviously, Hearts have dropped points there, and it's probably a good weekend overall for us.
I think, like, what you've got to kind of consider as well, I think, like any other year, if we had the start that we have had under Martin, we would be dead, completely dead. They every other year, they would be miles ahead. We're maybe a little bit fortunate that they've not been as good. And Hearts, we've always kind of got that mentality that we can catch Hearts, whether it's 9 points, 12 points, you know what I mean? We're early on the season. If we were kind of maybe 20 games in, we would maybe be thinking otherwise. But at this stage, you're thinking 9 points, right? We can do that. 5 points behind Celtic isn't a lot. They're going to need to see what they're going to get up to in terms of managerial changes as well. But I think if you offered me, when Martin was sacked, if you offered me in 3 games' time, we're going to be in this position where if we win our games in hand, we're going to be 9 points behind Hearts, 5 points behind Celtic. 3rd place, I would take it.
Yeah, now you've got to, and that leads me on quite nicely to this next run of games, which I'm sure everyone's had a look at, but again, we spoke about a week ago even, we have to win this next run, especially the next 2. That's Livingston and Falkirk at home. 2 games that, even how bad we've been, I don't think they strike too much fear, and that's the comment that will get clipped when we drop points in both. But I just don't see us, with the momentum that we're starting to get, with the options we have, and again, the front line, which I'm seeing a few comments about in terms of we don't have a front line that we can rely on, which I do get. But those two games, and then you've got Dundee United and Kilmarnock away. I'm ignoring European games. I'm going to come to that in a couple of minutes. But those 4 domestic games, we sort of said it, but you need to win those, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, like when we've kind of got these fixtures, we need to, because I think when we go into this, is it January? We've kind of got like a tough,
late December starts. It does, yeah.
So I think the issue is if we don't kind of win these games, it's more pressure going into January. If we can get a good run between now and kind of leading into the no disrespect to the fixtures that we've got, but sort of like the tougher games, then like that's obviously going to be beneficial for us and less pressure on them games. But I'd say we're at the stage now where we've kind of played every team apart from Aberdeen. The majority of games that we've played have been under Martin. So what we're going to see now, like even Livingston, a game that we did win 2-1, it was scrappy, it was sluggish, it was underwhelming.
Yep.
It wasn't a great performance. What we're going to see now is playing these same teams. Is it going to be an issue of the players with a problem? Are we going to find out that what we probably do know, that Martin definitely was the issue, and can we actually just beat these teams comfortably the way that we should?
Yeah, comment from Luke's maybe laugh here. And can't remember last time won 5 games in a row. We're going to have one of those guys with the Man United fan with the hair. There's bound to be one of them kicking off for us soon.
Maybe I should try it.
I think I'm safe for that one. On those European games, so we've got Livingston and Falkirk at home. Braga's in between those two. How do we play that? Is this a case of just play our best team week to week, or have you gave up hope? Sorry, in terms of Europe this season.
I've gave up hope on it, to be honest, and I'm not mad about it, because I think we've been so blessed in past years with how we've got on in Europe, and like being in Europe past Christmas wasn't really a thing that we were ever used to, especially going through what we went through. But even before, it wasn't very common for us to get in Europe past Christmas. So I think like these games, just take them for what they are. But I think like it's just week should be the focus now, especially being out the semi-final. I don't think we can claw it back to qualify, to be honest. In the Europa, we've got Porto away in the last game. So if we do need to qualify, it's probably going to be the assumption that we're going to have to go to Porto and either get a draw or a win, which probably seems unlikely. Braga at home will be hard as well. Obviously, they beat Celtic at Parkhead. So I don't think we're going to claw back Europe anyway. So I don't think the focus should be, unless we're winning comfortably, like we said, making the subs if we're up comfy, and then we can look towards it. But I think the focus now, next 5, should be league.
The thing that does kind of worry me in this is that I fully agree. Like, I'm not that bothered how Europe goes at this point, because I'd much rather be Hearts here and not even have Europe to contend with and just be trying to play the same team week to week to week. But it's the negative feeling that Europe can bring, because I think we were all quite respectful of Roma before the game on Thursday night. We know they're a good team, a couple of injuries here and there, but they're a good team who should be beating us, at any point, let alone the state we've been in. But it just felt very flat leaving Ibrox on Thursday, and it's just a kind of unwelcome feeling, as much as it might even be that for the players as well. I don't know if you try and rotate, then you don't get a doing in Europe either, so it's a kind of lose-lose here. And again, Braga on their day can absolutely hammer us. We could win that game. I'm not saying it's a 3 points Braga and it's done, but I just don't really like the thought of throwing those games as much as I don't care about them. It's a weird kind of thing for Rohl to try and navigate here.
Yeah, I think obviously we have got the better of Braga recently as well, haven't we? Played them twice and knocked them out twice. But obviously it's different now, different squads. And I said at the start of the season, the way that we've been in Europe the last few years, it seems like we're lifting our games to beat like kind of really good European teams, and then we can't kind of do it against, your Dundees away and stuff like that. I said at the start of the season, I would much rather now we take a little bit of a hit in Europe, and then we get the bread and butter, which is the league. So, like I say, if we can see now where we maybe do struggle a bit in Europe, but we consistently win league games and don't get these silly draws, silly defeats, I'm happy with it. I'm absolutely okay with that. You know what I mean? Because the upside of it is maybe not with the way the coefficient is going, but if we start winning the league, then Europe just becomes a lot easier with things like seedings, the way that we're going to be like going into pots and stuff like that anyway. So like that should just be the bread and butter focus, you know.
Yep, so it'll be interesting to see how Rohl manages that player-wise, which I want to try and come on to as well if I've got a little bit of time. But it's only 22 days into Danny Rohl's reign, which doesn't sound... I had to double-check that earlier because it just doesn't make sense to me. It feels like it's been months. But what's your thoughts on this in terms of, has he turned all... I say all that, but there was a lot of negativity when he was rumoured to be linked to the job and then got the job. I think most people thought, okay, we'll see how this goes, which is only fair, but there was a lot of people who were saying this is not the right type, it's not the leadership, it is the philosophy guy that we don't want. Do you think he's won that section of the fan base around, or are they just waiting for the next big loss to come out of the closet again?
I think on one hand, I think it is still too early. You know, we don't have enough information to fully judge how it's going to unfold. But on the other hand of it, you look at where we were under Martin, and we were starting games singing Martin, you know, not very kind words about it.
Yes,
please kindly
leave quietly, thanks. Yes,
in a more rude way. And now the opposite is we've got fans singing the manager's name, and obviously the fan engagement we get at the end of the game with Danny Rohl and the fans too. I think when you look at it like that, definitely turned a corner there. And for anyone that might complain about that, about the fan engagement kind of thing, I think Clement kind of tried it. I don't think he done it in the right way, because it was kind of, what was it, a home win against St Johnstone in the cup, and it was a lot. It felt a little bit.
Was that the one at Hampden, wasn't it? Yeah, Hampden. He had the players all lining up and taking a bow and stuff. Yeah, it
felt a little bit different, like to Danny Rohl doing it. But the people that kind of are against it, I kind of think, would you not rather the manager and fans had that bond, had that connection? I don't want to hate a manager. See the way that it was with Russell Martin. I absolutely hate that. I hate being in a position where I don't like a manager. They frustrate me. I don't like listening to press conferences, that kind of thing. I've been to a few of Danny Rohl's press conferences as well. I think he comes across well. Let's say he comes in, he shakes everybody's hand before he sits down and gives the conference as well. He's a very, very likeable guy, which I want my manager to be. Russell Martin wasn't that at all, you know. For me, his interviews after getting beat were smiling, laughing, talking about being brave, all this kind of thing, all this thing that a Rangers manager shouldn't be. So to have Danny Rohl come in and to be in a position now where, right, I actually want to go to the press conference, never mind just listen to them, it's like so different, you know, and that's the place that I want us to be in, not what we were in under Martin.
Yeah, he's also brought back something about, I'm quite looking forward to the next Rangers game. Like, I didn't want an international break here, and that's not just because we won, it's because I want to go and see this team. I want to go and see what Danny Rohl can do and what he does do, like tactically, with the players. Can he improve? We've already saw that he's improved, at least Mikey Moore, one or two more as well in there. I think, touched on it earlier, I think Raskin's looking a little bit more comfortable than now. I thought Diomande was all right before he went off the other day. You know, there's certain players who I think are coming out of their shell a little bit, a bit more freedom is helping. And again, that Livingston and Falkirk game, I'm looking forward to going to that. Whereas if that is Russell Martin, we're all probably trudging along, going, oh, I don't know how it's going to go today, not really looking forward to it. Probably know what I'm going to see, and then you see it kind of thing. It doesn't help, obviously. Something, again, just to try and touch on, we won't be too much longer tonight, because, again, international break, we're all just waiting for Rangers to come back, really. But there's a lot of players in this squad who haven't had much of a look in here. Some of those are staying behind. Some of them are going off international, which isn't ideal for them. But a few ones I want to pick out in particular. Lyle Cameron is one who was set to come on the other day, but Cornelius' injury meant Jigga had to come on. He had to sit back down. I hate that so much. It just looks so bad that he's ready to come on. He's against his hometown team kind of thing. No, he's going to get booed, but hoping he's get a goal kind of thing, and then just can't get on. So bit of a shame there. But there was a comment that JB made a few nights ago on the Sunday Night Pod, which I've put on Twitter. I put on TikTok, and it's got a lot of traction on it in comments, about Nadim Bayrami, who was also on the bench, but didn't see him warm up, didn't see him even nearly come on. Between Cameron and Bayrami, are you wanting to see a bit more of these guys, or do you think they're just not doing it in training to then get the starts or get the appearances that your Diamandes, your Barons started to get? Asgard's been getting chance after chance. Why do you think Asgard in particular, gets chance after chance, and they too can't even get on the pitch?
I think the Cameron incident as well, it's always a bit of a shame when you see somebody ready to come on and then they obviously have to go and sit down again.
Yeah.
I always think, like, it's happened to me playing football at amateur level, but then I think at the end of the day he's getting paid and I'm not, so it's a lot more it's a lot more frustrating when it happens to me than when it happens to Lyle Cameron. So I don't feel that much sympathy. But well, I feel like with Lyle Cameron under Martin, he kind of had a few all right games. Like I don't think, and then he got injured.
Yeah.
He's been out, and then I feel like obviously we've not. I don't know how long he's been back for, but then I feel like we've not really seen him
I
much
think he
of him.
started the season injured as well. I'm right in saying he got injured during
Yeah.
pre-season, so he was looking again in the very bare friendlies we had. He seems to have a bit of an injury record, which classic Rangers curse. I don't remember him being injured at all last season, but there we go.
I do obviously see a lot of comments about, like, you know, in regards to like your Asgard, talking about like him getting game time ahead of like that you say like Bajrami. A lot of people are saying, is it Phil that picks the squad? You know, that's the kind of seems to be what a lot of people are thinking. I don't think that personally.
That
but
drives me mental, to be honest. That, like, why would that be happening? It just doesn't make sense.
I don't think it, but at the same time, is it maybe encouraged to give these new signings a go? I don't know. You've got to think maybe as well, Asgard's a Norwegian international as well, and I know that Bajrami is too, but I don't think we signed Bajrami start of last season. We got, and when he scored that goal at Pataudry in his first season, I kind of thought, you know, he might be that kind of moments player that we need. You know, a guy that kind of stepped. I know we went on to get beat in the game, but it was a big goal at the time if we went on and won it. But I kind of thought, is he going to be that player that can grab the kind of goals? But then he hasn't really kicked on from there, has he? So maybe a few glimpses of something all right. I think off the ball he's a little bit lazy. He's a little bit doesn't really control a game, dictate it, anything like that. I don't know if he's going to get a chat. I thought Bajrami would have been one that went out in the summer, to be honest, and I'm surprised he didn't. Lyle Cameron, I think we'll just see progressively getting introduced into the squad. I'm not sure about Bajrami. Like I say, he's not been injured and he's not been featuring, so I'm not really sure what will happen there. I don't think he's good enough to play for Rangers. I think there's a lot of players in the team right now that I actually have the same opinion of. I don't think Lyle Cameron's one of them. And I think obviously being Scottish and homegrown as well, it's not one that we should look to offload at any time soon either. But Bajrami would be one that I would probably be looking at getting rid of, to be honest.
Yep. Just got a little gifted in there, which is always appreciated. So thank you very much for that.
I don't know
how to do that.
What does that mean?
I'll find out because I have no idea. We should know, but I have no idea. But we appreciate all the same.
We're dinosaurs. We appreciate it. Yes,
we're all Rangers dads. We don't know, but I'm sure it comes from a good place. So thank you so much. Again, another couple of players, and it's interesting you said there that Lyle Cameron's not one that we should look to offload. One that we should offload, who I noticed in the picture today, Rangers put up a remembrance picture, which is always great to see. Obviously, really good stuff from the club the last few days on that. But the first player I saw in that photo in the training centre today was Rabbi Matondo, who's still here. You know, you sort of half forget. But is he a guy that you think, now that he's back fit, apparently, could inject something in his front line? We've had this conversation, I'm sure, me and you offline a few times, even on the podcast. Everybody's talked about how he's just a waste of money. I think it's not harsh to say, but if we can get him off the books in the window here, that'd be a pretty good win, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I think the reason we still have Matondo is because he's on ridiculously high wages. You know what I mean, for who he is as a player. You know, he's earning way too much money. You know, for his ability. So why would you leave if you were him? You know.
No, of course, yeah, couldn't blame him for that at all.
I don't think it's ever worked for him. You know, like it was a silly signing, if I'm honest. You know, and it was at a time where we really needed, you know, like a winger. You know, and I was kind of semi-excited for it at the time. You know, I kind of thought like got a lot of pace, it might work in the league, but the guy's just absolutely hopeless, to be honest. And that's just putting it nicely, isn't it? He's gave us a good moment against.
I was going to say, like Bajrami, he seems to have quality. I don't know if quality is way too far of a word to be using, but he's got a good moment in him. It's just a guy you can't rely on. We saw Bajrami, for example, the goal against Alloa this season. Doesn't matter who you're against. No keeper is saving that. That's world class. The Matondo goal that you talked about there against Celtic, brilliant finish. I think he had another good one against Hibs, I want to say, which again, you have these moments, but I know game to game, week to week, I'm not going to sit and go, oh, has Matondo done something else good? Has Bajrami done something else good? It's just guys that just aren't going to click it here.
This is one of the really big problems I think we've had. It just kind of like, I'm not like kind of individually, but like just kind of from a club level over. I'd say this is going back years for me, like where we have a team where pretty much every single player, maybe not the now with the new guys, I've not seen enough of them, but anyone that's played with us in the last 5, 6 years, right, that has been with us for over a year, the majority of the players, right, have all had good moments, right, where they've showed that they're good players. They've all had good games. They've all had a game where you thought, oh, they're really good, right? None of them have been able to do it really, really consistently. And I think that's the big difference between us and Celtic is that they have players that just do it, that are good and that do it consistently and when it matters. Whereas we have players that are good, but they show up one every, 5 games and they don't. It's like one player will play well, the rest will play bad, and then the next game that player will play bad, but somebody else will play well, or two or three will play well. We don't consistently get a full squad of 7 8s, like there's always just that inconsistency is really what lets us down, and Matondo falls into that. Bajrami falls into that. A lot of players over the last, like you can even go like players like Todd Cantwell, all these players were good players, just didn't do it week in, week out, and that's a real problem that we've had.
I was trying to think of someone to go against that, but the only one I thought was maybe Joe Rebo, who was always decent. Ryan Jack was that midfield of like Arfield, Rebo, obviously Davis. That's gone back many years there, obviously, but that was a team and a collective that you thought, well, they won't let us down. They will be at worst a 7 and 8 out of 10 every week.
The team that won the league, I think, was solid. Obviously, they didn't win a game. They didn't lose a game. Sorry. So that's like out with what I'm talking about. But I think every other season apart from that, we've had guy. Even you think of like Lundstrom. One week he would look like the best midfielder ever, and the next week he would be absolutely awful. That's kind of seems to be the player that we attract. Not even the player that we attract, but is that mentality? What I mean? What? It's something that I've touched on a lot, and I've noticed it a lot. It's not like the players are bad; they just don't do it consistently, which is what we need. Definitely what you need at this club.
They then score one goal and start shushing the fans, which is a whole other debate we've not got time to get into.
Yeah.
But the last couple of things I want to talk about in Scots just remind me of it, to be honest. About Fernandes needs to be given game time. How do we know if he's going to be any good? It's a really valid point. And I think between Emmanuel Fernandes and maybe Inciala, Inciala, I think for me falls into that category of he's not played for a while, so he's good. That kind of classic thing. He's not kicked a ball, so he can help us. But I would much rather see those two guys in a starting 11 at least every few weeks than, I'm not going to try and pick on John Souttar because I think he was pretty solid against Dundee, but I don't want to see John Souttar long term at this club, knowing he's not going to be here beyond 7 months. We need to start bleeding these guys in, surely.
Yeah, to be honest, the way that the front line's been as well, I would just stick Fernandes up front, 7 foot, just ping long balls to him, He'd win absolutely every header, so I wouldn't mind that either. Yeah. But no, I mean, and the issue that we've got with the centre backs and the defence really now is that it's going to be a struggle to kind of fix that in January because a lot of the players that we've got are loan players there right now, so it's hard to kind of rectify that really because. Are we going to sign like a settled centre back in January? Or are we going to kind of go into the second half of the season with the same defence that we've got right now? Obviously, we need to really be looking at a left back and stuff like that. But is that going to be another loan? We can't really have more loans in the back line, really, to be honest. So, yeah, I would like to see him. Like I said, there's been a lot of bad sort of stuff said to him about from his previous club, and it was a bit of a steal that they got the money that they did for him. But he's here now, what I mean? We need to see what he's about. We need to support him if we can, if he's good. Blend him in, I say I'm not a fan of John Souttar at all, to be honest. And I don't think, and I've said this many a times, he's okay Souttar, and I think if he goes and plays with a team in the Championship, he would be really, really good. He would really suit that kind of the teams down there. But you don't win the leagues with John Souttar. I don't think if John Souttar's going to be your main centre back for 38 games in a season, I don't think you win the league. If I'm honest, I just don't think he's a player that wins leagues. So I'm not saying he's a bad player. I just don't think he suits us, to be honest. So yeah, I don't know if Fernandes should get it. I maybe prefer to see De Gea and Cornelius, maybe rather than Fernandes. But like I say, if we're 2-0 up, he could be a player that comes on. Like I said. That can be the moment that we can get to see these players rather than one each going into the last 15 and then you don't get to see them because we've got a game to win,
Yep. Yeah, no, very fair. We'll wrap it up there. Just again, a short pod. We'll be back on Thursday night with just a bit more observations, a bit more of a look ahead to the next few games coming up. But as always, if you can drop a like on the video, subscribe. All the comments have been great as always, guys. So thank you for that.
Or gifts and membership.
Yes, we apparently appreciate those. I got the reasoning. To gift a membership to someone, and I think it did work. So I appreciate that massively.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Me and Tom will go away and look into what YouTube means for future.
I'm gonna Google it.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Until next time. Cheers.